Hi guys, so I'm here again with another exciting topic. So somebody sent me a DM and they were like, I've been hearing about you talk about export. I don't have any product that I want to export, but I need you to give me some tips if I want to start exporting. So basically, what are the key factors that you should think about just before they start an export business? So the title, like I said, is Tips to Start Exporting. I'm going to give you some amazing tips in this training, and those tips are going to be very vital if you want to be profitable via export. Okay, so without wasting time, let's go ahead. Now, a lot of people, when they come to talking about export, they will say, oh yeah, you need to export this product. But I think you need to look at it from a broader perspective first. So the first thing I like to look at is what I call company strategy. Company strategy. And why is this important? You see, strategy. You see, a lot of people look at export not as a business but as a hobby, and that's one of the big mistakes we make. Export is a business. What a lot of people do is they wait until they focus on the local market, and as soon as one day they get somebody who sends them a DM from the UK, they package the product and ship. Another day somebody sends them a DM from US, they package and ship. They are not looking at it with the mindset of, how do I make this a continuous thing? How do I do it in such a way that every single day I have 10 orders from the UK, 10 orders from Canada, 20 orders from US, 4 orders from Germany? That is how you build your export business. And you have to look at it as a business. The first thing you need to think about is, what product do I export? Very key. This is very important because, and again, I like to tell people, look, focus on what is your passion. Some of you have passion for cosmetics. Some of you have passion for food. Some of you have passion for clothing. Focus on what is your passion, because again, if it is something that you're wanting to be a business, a long time thing, it has to make sense, right? It has to be something that you are looking at, something you want to do on a long time basis. But again, you have to first of all decide, do I want to go into food, cosmetic, fashion? And there are a lot of other factors to consider. Now, the next thing I'll try to say is about what modifications are needed. I hope you guys can see my writing. Right? What modifications are needed? Because why is this important? What works in Nigeria, what works in Ghana, what works in Kenya may not work in the USA. That is one of the big things I see. A lot of people think, oh, because this packaging, this design, this label works in Nigeria, is going to work in the US. It doesn't work that way. They have different buyers. They have different mindsets. They have a different way that they approach things. Their labeling, their FDA standard, everything is different. So again, you may have a particular product, but I can tell you, if you want to go into export to a particular market, you will always need to have some form of modifications. Now, the next one is licenses, and standardization. Every country have licenses for different things, right? So especially food and cosmetics, anything that comes onto the body, especially food, there are always licenses and minimum standards you must meet before you sell those things. So again, do you want to export food? Then you're going to have to deal with various standards. You're going to have to deal with NAFDAC locally. You're going to have to deal with the FDA if you're in Ghana. You're going to have to deal with the FDA if you're in the USA. So again, if you don't want to have to go through all that, then maybe you should look into something like fashion, shoes that don't really require complex standardization. So that is the important. Now, I also already talked about the modification. Another thing you have to consider here is the cost. What is the cost of doing those modifications? What is the cost of getting these licenses and certifications? These are very, very important. Even for the product, what is the manufacturing cost? Because all these things play a role. You see, in everything we're talking about here, cost is important. There are some licenses that to get it may cost you $1,000. There are some that to get it, you have to wait 3 to 6 months. Are you willing to wait that 3 to 6 months? So you have to be smart when you're deciding on the product that you want to start with, right? Now, another one is what I call after sales support for the product that you want to start exporting. You know, I had a customer who came to us and he was like, you know, he's a beautiful designer. So he designs these fancy, nice wristwatches and he sends it to China. A company manufactures it in China. And he was like, he wants to start selling these watches in the USA, selling them on Amazon. And the first question I asked him, he had a price range of about $145 to $160. And I said, look, you have some Tommy Hilfiger and some of those watches that you can get in the USA for similar prices. And my question to him was, what type of after-sales support do you have? And he didn't understand. And I said, okay, what type of warranty do you have? If somebody buys that watch and he comes back 2 years' time and says the watch spoiled, are you going to give him a new one? Because this is what all the other watch sellers offer. So again, you have to consider your after-sales support because these are things that will help you to market, right? And then you may need to consider who your customers are. Who are target customers? Are you selling for babies? If you are trying to target babies, you may require some additional certifications. If you are trying to target the wholesale market, it may require some additional a different type of business, right? Because if I'm selling food products and I want to target the restaurants, then I have to sell in larger quantities. But if I'm selling in smaller quantities, then it's direct to individuals. And these things vary. So again, you need to consider all that. Now, the last one I will say is what resources do you have? Oh my God, this is so important. And again, one thing you need to understand is all this is cost-based. It's cost-based. What resources do you have? Do you require huge machines to do this? Do you require a huge expanse of land to do it? Or do you just want to buy from already existing manufacturers and just export? And that's how I always tell people to start. Just buy existing products and export, right? There's a lot of factors that go into starting export, right? Now, I'm not going to dig deep into this because this is a very short 5, 10, 15 minutes video, right? On my YouTube channel, I dig deeper into this. But again, these are some of the key factors. Now, let's break it down a little more. You know, I know a lot of you are into food, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the factors you need to consider when exporting food. Right? So now let's focus more on food, right? So one of the first thing, and this is not just food, the first thing is your competition. Your competition. You know why this is important? Because a lot of people make that mistake. Remember, let me give an example. You decide, okay, I want to start exporting plantain chips, right? You're going to export it to the USA. Do you know that there are many Caribbean countries just beside the USA, near Florida, all those Peru and all those places that make plantain? Mexico does plantain. So the question is, if you are going to export plantain and it has to go through the ocean or go through air, and Mexico has to just bring it from across the border there, your shipping cost is going to be different. So at the end of the day, your price may be bigger than what is already selling. So you must do a product profitability analysis. I talk about that all the time. But again, you must know your competition. How much are they selling? How are they marketing? How are they branded? Pricing, again, is very important. Now, the second one is shelf life. Okay? What is the shelf life of that product? This is key. I've had so many people come to us. We say, oh, we have customers who are looking for dried fish. And you have people come to us and they say, oh, my dried fish is so good. Look at it. It's so dry. It's well packaged. It can last 6 months and 9 months. And I look at them, oh, your product can last 9 months. And I say, okay, no problem. Let's do some analysis on it. And then we just leave it on the shelf. 3 weeks later, it's all moldy. Shelf life. It's a huge factor. Why is this also important? Because again, remember, if you want to be profitable, I say this all the time, if you want to be profitable in the export market, shipping via ocean is the way to go. But if you ship via ocean, it's going to take about 2 months. And then let's assume it's going to take about 1 or 2 months to sell it. That means your shelf life must be able to compensate for that long period. Do you have products? Do you have the packaging that will last that long? You need to consider it, except you want to remain a passive exporter, whereby you are just waiting until you get orders and then you just ship it. So again, shelf life is very important. Another one is weight, item weight or package weight, any of them. Why is this important? Because a lot of your sales are going to be what? They are going to be via delivery, e-commerce. People are going to go to your website or ask you to ship it to them. If you are shipping those items to them, what happens? If the weight is high, what happens? The shipping cost becomes higher, the cost to the final customer becomes higher, and they may look for alternatives close by to buy it. And that's why you see things like palm oil, things like gari, things like rice, things like beans, they typically sell well in the local stores because of the huge cost. So they use ocean to ship it, they truck it to the local store, and people just come there to buy it. Okay, so item weight is important. Why is this also important? Let me give you an example. So let's say, for example, you are making these two products. These are two food products. This one is coconut oil. This one is bay leaves, bay leaves. And let's say these two sell for $20 and you're trying to sell it on Amazon, right? By the time this is about 2 kg, by the time they ship 2 kg items to the customer, and you're selling for $20, Amazon will charge about $9 or thereabout to ship this 2 kg product to the customer. Now, this one that is only 50 grams, Amazon will charge maybe $4 to ship it to the customer. So at the end of the day, when they are removing their pricing, let's ignore the seller fees. Let's just assume, some of you will know what I mean by seller fees, but I'm not going to go into that. Let's assume they remove the $4 for shipping. That means your final cost, what Amazon is going to pay you, is what? $16. And then for this one, they are removing $9. That means Amazon will pay you $11. So even though you are selling both of them for $20, it's listed, the customer pays you $20. At the end of the day, by the time Amazon removes the shipping cost, you are getting $11 here, you are getting $16 here. Which of these will you prefer to sell? Definitely the one that has $16. So again, weight is a key factor when it comes to deciding on the food to sell. Very, very key factor. Now, the next one is your profitability. And this is also very important because again, when you consider these two products, right? Two of them are selling for the same $20, right? And look, I know bay leaves doesn't sell for $20. It's just an example. Two of these are selling for $20, but you have to manufacture it. Look at what is involved in manufacturing this. First, you have to do this fancy label. Then you have to use this plastic that is expensive. Then you have to seal it. Right? This requires an expensive machine to seal. So at the end of the day, even though you are selling it for $20, your cost of manufacturing could be $5. Whereas look at this, what is the cost of manufacturing? Maybe 50 cents, right? So all those things factor into your profitability. You need to consider all that as well. Now, another factor, I'm just going to put it here, is what I call your audience or buyer size. Probably I should have called it buyer size. So what do I mean by buyer size? You see, a lot of times when I have events and I talk to people, everybody wants to sell the easiest thing, gari. Everybody wants to sell the easiest thing, palm oil. But how many people are buying gari and palm oil? It's probably appealing only to the African community. Why not sell something that appeals to the Germans, that appeals to the Asians, that appeals to the Chinese, that appeals to the Mexicans, that appeals to so many people? Sell cashew nuts, sell peanuts, right? Sell tiger nut. All those things appeal to a wider audience. If you have your pricing right, your shelf life is good, your weight is right, your profitability is good, you don't have that much competition, then why will I try to be selling something to a very small audience when I can blow up my export sale? So these are some of the things you consider. And the last one is what I call availability. Okay, availability. What do I mean by that? There are some products that are seasonal. So you have, I don't know what product I'm going to use as an example, but let's assume that product is only available for 3 months in a year. You want to sell it on Amazon again, because look, I am a fan of what I call multi-channel sales system. I don't believe an exporter should only be selling on Amazon or just African store. You should have the ability to sell across all these channels using a local warehouse. And that's what we are very good at here. Right? We have warehouses where you can put your products and then you can sell to everybody. You're selling to African stores. You're selling to Africans in diaspora. You're selling direct to consumer. You're selling to US retail stores. You're selling on Amazon. You're selling on e-commerce channels. You're selling to wholesalers. That is how you blow up your export business. So at the end of the day, if you have a product that is only available for 3 months in the year, let's assume you're selling on Amazon. For those of you who sell on Amazon, you will notice one thing, and that is that for you to grow your Amazon listing from a new listing, it takes time. It can take 3 months. You have to put in a lot of advert. You have to put in a lot of tweakings here and there. You modify your keyword today. You modify your image until you get the perfect listing that has risen up. But if that listing goes down after 3 months because the product is no longer available due to seasonality, then when it's available again, you have to start all that work again. And even if you are selling to some of the African stores, once your product is not available, they buy it from another person from another part of the world where it's available. So I will always say, focus on selling things that are always available all year round. So again, look, these are not the only factors you need to consider, but I'm going to stop here. If you take this into account when you are trying to start your export business, you will go a long way in deciding the right product. Now, we do what we call a product profitability analysis, whereby we do a demand analysis. We look at how profitable that product is going to be, selling it in various channels. You see, one of the mistakes a lot of people make is thinking that when you have one product, it will sell the same price in everywhere. No. There's what you call base minimum price, BMP. You must be able to do your profitability analysis to know what your base minimum price is. And then from there, you begin to know how much you sell in various places. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm just here to give you the tips.